Welcome back to our channel, where we learn English through inspiring and powerful stories. Today, we are going to explore the incredible journey of one of the greatest spiritual teachers of all time, Buddha. His real name was Siddhartha Gautama, and his life story is not just about religion. It's a story of discovery, change, peace, and wisdom. It teaches us how to find true happiness within ourselves. So, stay with us till the end. You will not only learn English, but also understand deep lessons about life. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more beautiful and meaningful stories like this one. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Prince. A long time ago, more than 2,500 years ago, a baby boy was born in a small kingdom called Kapilavastu, which is in present-day Nepal. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was born into a royal family. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled over the land, and his mother, Queen Maya, had a dream before his birth. A dream of a white elephant entering her side. Wise men said this dream meant her son would be a great king or a great spiritual leader. When Siddhartha was born, the kingdom was full of joy. The people celebrated, and the king felt proud. He wanted his son to be a strong, powerful ruler. The king built a beautiful palace for Siddhartha, full of luxury, gardens, dancers, and everything a young prince could ever want. The king also protected him from seeing anything sad or painful. Siddhartha was never allowed to go outside the palace walls. He didn't see old age, sickness, or death. The king believed that if Siddhartha never saw suffering, he would never leave the palace and would become a great king. From the beginning, Siddhartha was different. He was kind, gentle, and thoughtful. He often asked deep questions like, "Why are people unhappy?" Or, "What is the purpose of life?" But no one gave him answers. Still, he smiled, learned with great interest, and grew into a smart and compassionate young man. This was the beginning of a journey that would one day change the entire world. But at this point, Siddhartha was still a young prince, living a peaceful life inside a golden cage. Chapter 2. The Four Sights. A New World Revealed. As Siddhartha Gautama grew older, he became curious about the world beyond the palace walls. He had lived a life of luxury, protected from any pain or sorrow. But inside, he felt there was more to life than wealth, parties, and comfort. He often sat quietly, thinking deeply. His heart longed for truth, not just a crown or a kingdom. One day, Siddhartha requested his father to allow him to go outside the palace and see his people. The king didn't want Siddhartha to know about the sufferings of the world, but finally he agreed and made special arrangements. The streets were cleaned, the sick and old were hidden, and the roads were decorated. Everything looked perfect. But life cannot be hidden for long. During his visits outside the palace, Siddhartha encountered four sights. Four simple yet powerful moments that changed his life forever. First, he saw an old man, walking slowly, bent over, with wrinkles and white hair. Siddhartha was shocked. He had never seen old age before. "Why is he like this?" he asked. His charioteer replied, "That is what happens to all people. Everyone becomes old one day." This truth hit Siddhartha hard. He had never thought about growing old. Next, he saw a sick man lying on the ground, groaning in pain. "What is wrong with him?" Siddhartha asked. The charioteer said, "He is sick. Illness can come to anyone at any time." Again, Siddhartha was shaken. Could sickness touch him too? Could his loved ones fall ill? Then he saw a dead body, covered in white cloth, being carried by people who were crying. Siddhartha was speechless. "Is this the end of life?" he whispered. The charioteer nodded. "Yes, Prince. One day, all of us must die." Siddhartha's heart grew heavy. He had never thought of death, but now he realized old age, sickness, and death were part of every life. Finally, he saw a wandering monk wearing simple robes and walking calmly. The man had nothing, yet he looked peaceful. Siddhartha asked, "Who is he?" The charioteer said, "He is a holy man. He has given up everything to search for truth and peace." That sight stayed with Siddhartha. The first 3 sights made him question life, but the 4th sight gave him hope. Maybe there is a way to escape suffering. Maybe there is a deeper truth to discover. That day, Siddhartha returned to the palace, but he was no longer the same prince. The world had opened his eyes, and his heart was now filled with questions. Chapter 3. The Great Renunciation. Leaving everything behind. After seeing old age, sickness, death, and a peaceful monk, Siddhartha could no longer live the same life. His mind was full of questions. Why do we suffer? Why do people grow old and die? Is there a way to stop pain? Even though he was a prince with every luxury, his heart was restless. He had a beautiful wife, Yasodhara, and a newborn son named Rahula. Yet something deep inside him told him he must go. Not to run away from life, but to search for something greater. Truth, peace, and understanding. One quiet night, while everyone in the palace slept, Siddhartha stood at the door of his son's room. He looked at the baby who was sleeping peacefully beside his mother. Tears filled his eyes, but he didn't go inside. He knew that if he did, he might never leave. With a heavy heart, he whispered, "I will return one day, but I must go now to find the truth." Then he quietly walked away from the palace. He left behind his crown, his wealth, his palace, his wife, and his child. Everything. He took off his royal clothes and wore simple robes. He cut his long hair with a sword, gave away his ornaments, and stepped into the world as a seeker, not a prince. This was called the Great Renunciation, a bold and painful step. It was not an escape from responsibility. It was a journey toward truth, not for himself alone, but for all living beings. For 6 long years, Siddhartha wandered from forest to forest, village to village. He studied with the wisest teachers of India. He learned deep meditation. He practiced silence. He starved himself, living on only a grain of rice a day. He tortured his body, thinking that pain might bring him wisdom. But even after all that, he still didn't find the truth. His body became weak. His bones showed through his skin. Yet his mind was not at peace. One day he realized something important. Torturing the body is not the path to truth. And enjoying luxury is also not the way. The real path must be something in the middle. Not too hard, not too soft. This idea would later become the middle path, the heart of Buddha's teachings. And now, Siddhartha was ready. He had let go of everything. He had learned, suffered, and realized what didn't work. Now he was about to find the truth that would change the world forever. Chapter 4. The Awakening. Under the Bodhi Tree. Now we begin the most important chapter in his life, the moment he found what he was searching for. After 6 long years of wandering and learning, Siddhartha arrived at a quiet village called Bodh Gaya. There, near the banks of a river, he saw a beautiful fig tree. Tired, thin, and calm, he sat down under its shade. That tree would later be called the Bodhi tree, or the Tree of Awakening. Siddhartha made a promise to himself. He said, "I will not get up from this spot until I find the truth. Even if my body breaks, I will not move until I understand the cause of suffering and how to end it." And so, he began to meditate. As he sat in deep meditation, his mind grew sharper, more focused. He remembered his past lives, thousands of them. Lives full of joys and pains, mistakes and learning. He saw how all beings go through this endless cycle of birth, suffering, death, and rebirth. This cycle is called samsara. He also saw something else, the reason we suffer. It's not just sickness or death. It's our desire, our attachment, our anger, and our ignorance. These are the roots of all pain. And when we let go of these roots, we become free. But it wasn't easy. That night, darkness tried to stop him. In many stories, it is said that Mara, the Lord of Illusion, appeared. Mara sent storms, fires, demons, and beautiful temptations to scare or distract Siddhartha. But Siddhartha did not move. He sat like a mountain, calm and steady. He simply touched the earth with his right hand and said, "The earth is my witness." And the earth accepted. By the time morning came, Siddhartha had awakened. His mind was clear like a still lake. He had become the Buddha, the enlightened one. He didn't gain some magical power. He had found deep understanding, the truth of life, the truth of suffering, and the path to peace. He saw how everything is connected. He felt boundless love for all living beings, from the smallest insect to the greatest king. He was not just awake, he was free. And that freedom was not just for himself. It was for all. The light that he found under that tree would shine through the world for thousands of years. And from that moment, the journey of Buddhism began. Not as a religion of gods, but as a path of awakening, compassion, and peace. Chapter 5. The First Teachings. Setting the Wheel in Motion. In our last chapter, we witnessed the most powerful moment in Siddhartha's life, the moment he became the Buddha, the enlightened one. But true wisdom is not something to be kept hidden. It must be shared. And now, the time had come for Buddha to speak. After his awakening under the Bodhi tree, Buddha remained in silence for several days. Not because he was unsure, but because he wondered. Would people understand this truth? Would they be ready for it? What he had realized was deep, not easy to explain in simple words. It was not about praying to gods or performing rituals. It was about changing the mind and heart. But then he thought of his 5 old friends, the same 5 monks who had once meditated with him and later walked away when he began to eat again. He felt they might be ready. So, Buddha stood up and began walking toward a forest called Sarnath, near the city of Varanasi in India. The journey was long, but the Buddha walked calmly, barefoot, through villages and fields. His face shone with peace, and people who saw him felt something special. Some even bowed to him, without knowing why. Finally, he reached the deer park in Sarnath, where the 5 monks were staying. At first, they ignored him. "Here comes Siddhartha," they whispered. "He gave up the path. He can't be enlightened." But as he came closer, they looked at his face. His eyes filled with love, his steps so gentle and yet so steady. They could feel the change in him. They welcomed him. And then, under the shade of trees, with birds chirping around and deer walking freely nearby, the Buddha gave his first teaching. He spoke of what he had discovered, the 4 noble truths. 1. Life is full of suffering. Not just pain or sickness, but even sadness, fear, and the feeling of being lost. 2. This suffering has a cause. It comes from desire, from craving, from always wanting something more, something different. 3. There is a way to end this suffering by letting go of attachment, anger, and ignorance. The way to end suffering is the Eightfold Path, a path of right understanding, right thoughts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These were not just ideas. They were a practical guide to live a better life, a life of peace, wisdom, and kindness. That day, it is said, the Dharma wheel was set in motion. The teachings had begun. The 5 monks listened deeply, and by the end, their hearts had changed. They became the first disciples of the Buddha, the first members of the Sangha, the spiritual community. Buddha did not teach with force or fear. He used stories, questions, and silence. He made people think. He helped them look inside, not outside. And the message was simple. You can be free. The answer is within you. From that small gathering in a quiet forest, the teachings of Buddha began to spread, first by word of mouth, from one heart to another, and soon across the world. This was the start of a revolution, not with swords or power, but with compassion, wisdom, and truth. Chapter 6. The Journey of a Teacher. Walking the path with the world now. Buddha became not just a man who was enlightened. He became a teacher to the world. After his first disciples joined him, the Buddha didn't rest. He didn't stay in one place. Instead, he walked, village to village, city to city, under the sun, in the rain, barefoot, with a bowl in his hand and wisdom in his heart. He didn't ask for money or build temples. His goal was simple: to help people end their suffering and find peace within. One by one, people began to follow. They were not all monks. Some were kings, some were farmers, some were poor workers, and some were rich merchants, men and women, young and old. Buddha welcomed them all. He did not see class, wealth, or status. He saw hearts seeking truth. He would sit under trees or on river banks and speak calmly, using simple words and stories that everyone could understand. If someone asked, "What should I do when I'm angry?" he answered with kindness. Anger is like holding a hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone. But you are the one who gets burned. When asked about love, he said, "You can search the whole world for someone more deserving of your love than yourself, and you will never find anyone. You, yourself, as much as anyone, deserve your love and compassion." He taught people to look at their thoughts, to understand their feelings, and to stop blaming others for their pain. He told them to practice mindfulness, to live in the present moment, not the past, not the future. And soon, his Sangha, the community of monks and nuns, grew. They wore simple robes, shaved their heads, and walked behind him silently. They lived with few needs. They begged for food not because they were poor, but to stay humble and connected to the world. And yet, even with so many followers, Buddha never called himself a god. He said, "I am awake." That was it. Not above anyone. Just someone who had discovered the path and was showing it to others. But the path wasn't always smooth. Some priests and leaders felt challenged by his message. They were afraid of losing power, afraid of change. They tried to insult him. Once, a man shouted angrily at Buddha in front of a crowd. But Buddha smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not take it, to whom does the gift belong?" The crowd was silent. The man walked away, ashamed. Buddha didn't fight back. He responded with silence or with truth. He believed that hatred never ends with hatred. It ends with love. He continued teaching for years, guiding people, comforting the sad, giving hope to the lost. He turned ordinary people into saints, kings into monks, and enemies into friends. He didn't build an army. He built a family, a global family of hearts connected through peace, wisdom, and compassion. This was the life of the Buddha as a teacher, not in palaces, but in forests and fields, not through orders, but through understanding. Every step he took, every word he spoke, was for one purpose: to help the world wake up. Chapter 7. The Final Journey. A Peaceful Farewell. As we walk deeper into the story of Buddha, we now come to the final part of his journey. A chapter not filled with sadness, but filled with peace, purpose, and wisdom. After more than 45 years of teaching, walking, and guiding, Buddha had grown old. His body, once strong and full of energy, was now fragile. But his mind? Still as calm and deep as a quiet lake, still full of light. He knew the time of his departure was coming, not because of illness, not because of fear, but because he had completed his mission. He had shown the way. Now it was up to the people to walk it. One day, while traveling with his faithful disciple Ananda, Buddha sat beneath a grove of trees in a small village called Kushinagar. He looked around at the trees, the flowers, the sky, and the earth. Everything looked so peaceful. The birds were singing, the wind was gentle. The sunlight passed through the leaves like golden threads. He smiled. He turned to Ananda and said calmly, "All things that are born will die. All that is made will break. But the truth, the Dharma, will live forever." Even in his last moments, Buddha was not worried about himself. He was thinking of others, of the monks and followers who still needed guidance, of the future generations who would seek the path. So he spoke one final message: be your own light. Work out your salvation with diligence. Do not depend on anyone else. Everything you need is within you. Then, slowly, he lay down between the trees. He rested on his right side, his head on his arm, just like a lion sleeps, calm, strong, and without fear. Ananda was in tears, so were many others. But Buddha's face was calm. He closed his eyes, and with one last breath, he entered parinirvana, the final freedom. No more suffering, no more rebirth, just perfect peace. But the story didn't end there. After his passing, the monks gathered all his teachings, his words, his stories, his lessons, and shared them far and wide. From India to Sri Lanka, from China to Japan, from mountains to islands, the light of Buddha kept spreading, touching millions of lives. Statues were made, temples were built, but more importantly, hearts were changed. People began to live more mindfully, more kindly, more freely. Buddha never wanted followers. He wanted awakened people. People who could love without fear, think clearly, and live truthfully. And even today, over 2,500 years later, his message remains the same. Don't look outside for happiness. Don't run after things that come and go. Look within. Understand yourself. Be kind to all, and when you walk the path of truth, you too can be free. Just like him. That was the life of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. Thank you for watching. If you found peace, inspiration, or learning in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll meet again with another powerful story. Until then, stay calm, stay kind, and keep growing.